reach from below, entwined from without and within to our very beings. Interplayed with the threads of human love. May there be peace at night, peace at day. Intertwined with the bonds of humanity, originating from our great home places. The far home places, the remote home places. The merging of the spirits, the coming out into the light, the consciousness opening of our inner beings. Nō reira, tūturu whakamaua tīna, haumi e, hui e, ai ki e.
Nā mihi nui ki a koe te rangatira, nā mihi ngā tangata o tēnei rohe kaitahu. I've always felt very, very at home on this whenua, so thank you for having me back here. Kia ora. And kia ora, Dunedin Town Hall. Nice to see you all. And can we get a round of applause for the wonderful Robert Scott, please? Music royalty lying around in Dunedin who can come and support a cause like this. I'd also like to acknowledge Bridie Strang, who is going to be helping us out with sign language tonight. Thank you. So who am I? I am Carmel Lloyd. You might know me as that lady who goes on the telly sometimes. But I'm not just here to be your MC tonight and yell at you and tell you how to do things and invite our speakers on stage. I'm here because it's an incredibly important cause. If you are wondering, I am a proud Queen's girl. Thank you. Pause for applause. I know, the ones that took a little while longer were the Columba parents, but that's okay. My whānau have lived in Portobello, in Corstorphine, in McAndrew Bay. My mum actually nursed at Dunedin Hospital for several years. I think 3 of my siblings were born in Dunedin Hospital. I'm looking for Cheryl to confirm if that's true. Yeah, I think it was 3. My nana actually had to come down from Cromwell just a couple of weeks ago to get some care in Dunedin Hospital. She's all good, she's going strong at 92, I think. But that's all to say that I get it. I understand that a healthy southern hospital is the beating heart of the southern region. It's a really, really important reason why we are here. And I think that the 350,000 of you who this represents deserve what you were promised. That's what tonight is. Now I do have a little bit of housekeeping to do, so this will be the last time that I'm really bossy. Look, the main thing is if there's a fire, an earthquake or some sort of incident or hazard, get out. You'll find some exits behind you there. Head for Moray Place in front of the Dunedin Public Library, that's the plan. And if you get confused or stuck, there's lots of helpful ushers around. And also you can just follow me because I will be leaving it out of this building very, very quickly. If you need to use the lavatories, they are located on all levels of the town hall. Don't be afraid to just get up and go do what you need to. You just don't need to tell the rest of us about it. If you are a smoker, that's very cute, very vintage. There is a designated smoking area which is located on Harrow Street. Kia ora, that is my housekeeping for now. Now I wasn't here for it, but I heard that there was a little bit of a chant cooked up for this cause. Does anybody know how it goes? Toi tu tititi. Oh no, wrong code, sorry. It's always toi tu tititi. Okay, so as far as I know, it goes build it once, once, build it right. Can I get a build it once, build it right? Oh, you're in good voice, Dunedin. I love it. Now tonight, there's a bit of a remix happening. Build it once, build it right, build it now. Shall we hit one of those? Build it once, build it right, build it now. Kia ora, that is a very good warm-up, and save those voices because I think there's going to be a little bit of chantathon happening later on in this evening's proceedings. Alright, so let's get on with things. Our first order of business is that Mayor Raddick is in Shanghai at the moment, but I know that he really wanted to be here, so here's a little something he prepared earlier.
Kia ora tātou. Thank you all for being here tonight. I can't join you in person because I'm in Shanghai to celebrate the 30th anniversary of our sister city relationship. However, my heart is firmly with you and this critical issue, the future of our Southern Region Tertiary Hospital. This hospital build is the greatest challenge facing Dunedin and the South right now. We're not just talking about bricks and mortar. This is about the health, safety and well-being of our community. This hospital must not only serve our needs for today, but also for our children and future generations. Let's keep our voices strong and united and sending a clear message to the government. Keep your hospital promise. Build it once, build it right. Kia kaha.
Did that march look? What a powerful thing that so many of you turned out to have your voices heard, and I'm really proud to be a small part of keeping those voices going to where they need to be heard. So Health Minister Shane Betty declined the invitation to attend tonight. But the plan is, have no fear, later this evening, as a collective, we're going to agree on an SOS hospital statement that's going to be sent to him so that he knows what he is missing out on down here tonight. And now there is a wonderful program lined up for you tonight. We have got health professionals, we've got fancy people, we've got ex-All Blacks, it's all going on, but who better to kick things off than the wonderful Sir Ian Taylor. Now, I know you all know Sir Ian, but I didn't actually know that you used to be a rock and roll singer, Sir Ian. Did you? Woohoo! He was also had the pleasure of being my boss when I was about 16 years old, but he's perhaps best known as the founder of global technology solution company Animation Research, and he was the founder of the Land of Voyages project, which is a really cool project. He was knighted for his services to broadcasting, business and community. No mai, ta Ian Taylor.
Ko ngai tahua o tapuai I nanahi hei toira ora moa a popo. That is a Māori whakatauki, a Māori proverb which translates to the footsteps we laid down in our past create the paving stones upon which we stand today. And in the Māori worldview, those footsteps are always in front of us. And so the footsteps we lay down next, as far as our hospital is concerned, is a watershed moment for all of Aotearoa New Zealand. And I use the word our hospital rather than Dunedin Hospital because what happens next will create the paving stones upon which all our moko in Aotearoa New Zealand will stand, our grandchildren. And as I look out at the footsteps that have been laid down as regards this hospital, there are countless questions that I ask, because I'm not an expert in this, but first question is, like people are building hospitals all over the world. How can it be so hard? If inflation alone is lifting the cost of this hospital by $110,000 a week, why is it that we can continue to revisit a plan that was devised by the people at the cliff face, the clinicians, who know what they need to do their job properly for the people of New Zealand? for the people who vote our politicians into power. But we are where we are, and what is abundantly clear is that whatever happens here in Dunedin, it will set the future of all people in Aotearoa. We must resist at all costs the efforts by politicians to divide us as a nation. The argument that if they build this hospital here for this price, they won't be able to build it in Whangarei needs to be treated for what it is, a cynical attempt to turn communities against each other instead of solving the real problems in healthcare planning and funding. The country needs a united vision for the health system that all of us buy into, and then we need to figure out how to pay for it. This process has been running for at least 7 years. Now, as I said, I don't know a lot about hospitals and hospital bills, but I just want to bring this up just as an example. During COVID, China built a hospital with 1,000 beds in 10 days, and another with 1,600 beds in 12 days. Now, I am not suggesting for a moment that's what we do here, but what are the lessons we might take from that exercise? Well, one, they accelerated the practice of prefabrication. Now, I'm not an expert, but how many ways are there to build a surgery, a hospital ward, an ICU? What if we created those models here so that they could be shared with Whangarei, the Whangarei build and beyond, to any new hospital that was needed in the future? This is something that I do know something about, AI. The Chinese also used AI and drones to maximise the efficiency of the hospital build. 10 days for anything, let alone a hospital that included isolation wards, intensive care units and advanced medical equipment is pretty damned efficient. Now, I accept that this is an extreme example, but what we know for certain is that every day we wait, this hospital either gets more expensive or less fit for purpose. The process needs to stop, and it needs to stop now. Our response needs to be unequivocal. You need to build the hospital our clinicians say they need here, and then you need to repeat that process in Whangarei, North Shore, Gisborne, anywhere in the future where a new hospital is needed.
Yeah.
We have to trust that our clinicians have designed the hospital they need to do their job into the future. We know that cutting costs today will simply pass this problem to our children and grandchildren, just as it has over past decades when health has been treated as a political football in 3-year cycles. This is a question of priorities. We are in the real world, and as Rob Campbell, the inaugural chairman of Te Whatu Order, and I like to say inaugural rather than the ex-chairman of Te Whatu Order, said here in Dunedin last night, none of the previous recent governments have shown any ability to understand the issues, let alone implement any useful response. Health services have been squeezed, neglected and mismanaged. This is something that will not be solved quickly, and it will not be solved inexpensively. And this doesn't just relate to hospitals. It relates to our nurses. It relates to everyone who works in the hospital. It has been neglected for too long, and this is the time. And maybe this is the time and the place to solve this problem. Here in Dunedin, the city of firsts. The first university, the first art school, the first medical school, the first public art gallery, the first all-girls boarding school, the first daily newspaper, and the first refrigerated ship that took frozen meat to England and made this one of the richest countries in the world. These are the footsteps that have been laid down in our past. They are the paving stones upon which we stand today. Now let's take the opportunity here and now to lay the paving stones for the future of all Aotearoa New Zealand. One thing I've learned over my 74 years of footsteps is that when you set an ambitious goal that requires a team working together, you need to share the same why. Why are we doing this? My why, as I mentioned at the start, is our grandchildren, our mokopuna. So to close, I want to share a short video of one of my mokopuna. So here he is, Franco. That's him at the age of 3. He's now 4. And the reason I want to share it in the context of the footsteps we laid down in our past was when he was born, here at the Dunedin Hospital. I will never forget seeing him on the first day, and he had the most beautiful blue eyes. And having been in a singer-in band, we did open for the Beach Boys once, I couldn't resist it. I looked at him and started, "Don't it make my brown eyes, don't it make my brown eyes, don't it make my brown eyes blue." And in the context of the footsteps laid down, my moko Franco has only laid down 4 years so far. But somewhere in those 4 years, he has the footsteps of his crazy moko singing Brown Eyes to him. Now, I haven't done that for a while, but a few months ago, his mother sent me this video. Now, just to put it in context, he's just had a bath. You know, here he is, he's just had a bath, he's on his way up to his bedroom, and somewhere in those footsteps, in a mind of his own, in a space of his own, this is what he does.
Don't, my brown eyes. Don't you let my brown eyes. Don't you let my brown eyes. Yeah.
So, I leave that image with you. That is our why. Every moko in Aotearoa New Zealand, this is the moment to make sure tomorrow we can look them in the eye and say, we've got your back. Ka pai.
Thank you, Sir Ian, and thank you, Frankie. Future New Zealand music royalty right there, eh, Robert? Do you reckon, Robert Scott? That's 100%. It's got the seal of approval. Now, next I would like to invite to the stage, you can't really talk about a hospital without talking to a doctor or a nurse or a medical professional or two. So our next guest is Dr. Sheila Barnett. Dr. Barnett is an anaesthetic doctor at the Dunedin Hospital. She's also the Clinical Transformation Group Chair for the new hospital. So she's one of the many clinicians who've worked for 7 years, giving common sense clinical input into this design. We are very lucky to have her insights tonight. Please make Dr. Barnett feel welcome.
Kia ora. My name is Sheila Barnett. I am a senior anaesthetic doctor at Dunedin Hospital, working in the operating theatres and on the wards. I have made it my life's work as a doctor to avoid being on stage. Ever since my mum tried to make a violin quartet out of me and my 3 sisters. Today, a far more important event, and thank you all so much for coming tonight. As part of my other great team in the hospital and in the southern area, I'm part of the local southern project team for the new Dunedin Hospital. I've been involved in this project for 7 years. I chair the advisory group of clinicians and consumers. We help translate the local expertise and experience into robust and balanced recommendations to the project. As you know, in 2022, some of the design was cut already, including a staff facilities building and the hospital portion of the pathology labs. The long-term consequences of these decisions are still not resolved and the degree of savings uncertain. And here we are again. On September the 26th this year, the ministers announced that the project must now be built within a budget cap. This was not because the clinical need was any less, but because it was costing more than expected to build. The two options were to reduce the floor area in the new building, or build a smaller new building on the old site and connect it to a refurbished ward block. As always, the clinical teams have responded with a willingness to engage, to help find solutions and to target sensible savings where patient safety can still be preserved. However, there is a limit and it has been crossed. We have looked at these options and consulted with our teams. It is no surprise that these fall far short of the original new Dunedin Hospital. We have delivered written, detailed feedback. One option needs to be clearly and immediately discounted. Reusing the old hospital would deliver to us a fragmented set of buildings that would be extremely difficult to staff, operate and maintain. Even when finally finished, the quality and the safety of the care that we could provide would be compromised, and it would be even worse during the decades of construction and refurbishment. More broadly speaking, we are concerned that every day of delay and of re-litigating old decisions costs money. This erodes the budget and therefore the quality of the hospital we can build by the end of the process. No hospital sits in isolation. We are all part of a network of care and expertise. If Dunedin Hospital is so reduced that it cannot provide the right types of care and the right amounts of care, then this will be felt across the whole South Island. The clinical teams have shown engagement, goodwill and accepted sensible compromises in order to help keep this project moving forward, and we will continue to do so. In return, we call on decision makers to focus on what services the hospital needs to provide and not just a budget, to commit to long-term safe healthcare for the South, to have the common sense to get on and build, and to have the humility to step back from a series of decisions that have taken us too far. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Dr. Barnett. For someone who's avoided being on stage, I think you did a bloomin' good job. Well done. Next up to the stage tonight to talk about key parts of the healthcare system, we're going to be joined by Dr. Mike Hunter. Got some fans in the crowd, Dr. Hunter. Now, Dr. Hunter was the Trauma Services Director at the Southland District Health Board. In fact, he is so good at trauma education, he's got a special award for it. And he is a medical advisor to the Otago Rescue Helicopter Trust. Please welcome to the stage, Dr. Mike Hunter.
That's a long way. Good evening. The new Dunedin Hospital. We need it, and we need it now. In fact, yesterday. And no, actually several decades back. Some of our current buildings are so far past their safe use-by date that it is really frightening and expensive, with constant band-aid maintenance, which is essentially dead money. In our rebuild, we have to make sure that we address the serious deficiencies of the current hospital, the most important of which is inadequate capacity. As I've explained in some of the series of opinion pieces I've written for the ODT, delivery of healthcare has three components: people, plant, and process. This meeting, and the groundswell of activism it is part of, is primarily focused on the plant, that is, the hospital facility, but it is vital to understand that all three are closely interdependent, and we must get all three right. At present, the current Dunedin hospital is having a disastrous effect on the people. That is, the staff as well as the patients, and the would-be patients who can't get in the doors for treatment, and is severely limiting the processes of care, which could be so much more efficient and deliver more and better care if the facility had adequate capacity. Unlike a hotel, maximum occupancy does not equate with maximum efficiency or productivity in a hospital. At 85% occupancy, things start to become very difficult, and there are increasing adverse consequences, particularly cancellations of planned care. The key areas of limitation are the inpatient ward beds, the operating theatres, and the emergency department. None of these have adequate capacity, and all produce bottlenecks to patient flow, which leads to waste in other areas. For example, the frequent cancellation of planned elective lists on the day of surgery because there are no free inpatient beds to nurse the patients in post-operatively. A fully staffed theatre may simply go to waste, and you never get that back. Moreover, cancellation is a devastating letdown for patient and whānau, who have usually made special arrangements around their surgery, not to mention the psychological effects of building up hopes, managing fear and anxiety, and then having the rug pulled out at the last minute. It is a very uncommon game of social life. We have so few operating theatres, only 9, that many of our surgeons are lucky to be allocated 2 operating lists a month. I personally, in the last 10 years of a 40-year career of service, only had 1 list per month and had to beg, steal or borrow any spare list that came up and constantly revise my schedule to enable me to use them. Hardly efficient. No wonder surgeons get frustrated and leave, or focus an increasing amount of their attention in the private sector. Waiting lists, particularly for orthopaedic procedures, are unacceptably large and inhumanly long. Features which are scaring more and more New Zealanders, those who can afford it, that is, into paying for private insurance. Nursing staff are angry and frustrated as they are constantly apologising to patients and family for long waits in ED, long waits of many days for acute surgery, cancellations of planned surgery, and inadequate nurse numbers to provide what they consider to be an acceptable level of care, and they're exhausted. As we've heard from Sheila, an awful lot of effort and careful scrutiny of every aspect of the new Dunedin hospital by sincere and knowledgeable clinicians has gone into the calculations of the capacity that is needed. And this has been re-examined multiple times to see if it can be pared back without seriously impairing the ability to deliver what the population needs. Well, it can't. And the government needs to hear that loud and clear. I have to say that I personally retain some serious concerns that the forecasting of capacity needs is already too frugal, and even if delivered as originally promised, it may still not cut the mustard. Ideally, there would be more expansion potential built into the structure, so that if we find we've got the demand growth wrong, as they did in Southland Hospital, we won't be locked into long-term inadequacy and workarounds, all of which become rapidly more expensive when compared with the capital saving made by making it too small. Prime Minister Luxon, Infrastructure Minister Chris Bishop and Health Minister Shane Reckie have all said that we will get our hospital and it will meet our needs, but in the next breath say that it must come in under the budgeted figure of 1.8, scary figures out of the air, claiming without any supporting evidence that it could cost $3 billion, and this would be the costliest hospital in the Southern Hemisphere. Well, the first response is, that's bullshit. You don't have to look far for evidence to contradict their scaremongering. As you've already seen on the screen, South Australia are rebuilding the Women's and Children's Hospital in Adelaide, not a comprehensive general hospital with tertiary services, note, with a starting price tag of $3.5 billion and expected to rise, and they think that's value for money. And my second response is, so what? Every new hospital build is likely to cost more than those that went before. And if there had been a coherent long-term program of investment in hospital assets, rather than letting it all run down to the point of ruin, then we wouldn't be having to do this all at once. The tragedy is that we have no long-term thinking in our political system. And very like the UK, our politicians want a first-world health system at a substantial discount. While healthcare spending may look sort of okay on a percentage of GDP basis, it looks woeful on real adjusted US dollar basis. Over the last few decades, Australia has spent about 30% more per capita in real terms.
Shame.
And do our citizens expect healthcare that is comparable to Australia's? You betcha.
Yes.
Most of our increases in health spending are forced on successive governments by short-term crises. They are reactionary rather than planned. Political parties of all shades are intensely focused on the short term. 3 years is as far as their attention span extends. The only goal that matters to them is winning the next election. This is a disaster in terms of consistent and coherent long-term policies. This, of course, doesn't just affect us in the south, as Ian has referred to, but is a problem for all regions of New Zealand. To their great discredit, the ministers are currently trying to play us all off with the line, if we spend this on your hospital, there'll be nothing left for anyone else. It's disgraceful. I suspect they're also trying to play us off against those in the rest of our southern region by floating the idea that some of the proposed investment in Dunedin Hospital could be diverted to services in the rural hospitals. The critical mass required to staff inpatient surgery in particular simply isn't there, and it's likely that both Dunedin Hospital and any hospital that tried to establish inpatient surgery would be unsustainable because they couldn't staff livable rosters for acute cover to begin with. It's vital that everyone in the region recognises that the new Dunedin Hospital is essential for all of us in the southern region. The rural hospitals have real and cogent needs, but let's not conflate the two. It is shameful that there is no long-term infrastructure plan for hospital renewals. Every hospital needs to have a 30 to 50 year horizon, and ideally would have 4 buildings on site, 3 of which are occupied and functioning at any point in time, and the 4th is being refurbished or refitted, taking into account whatever new treatment or diagnostic modalities and advancing technologies need incorporated. Those buildings need to have adaptable spaces and structural flexibility, so that they can, for example, in one generation be a ward space, and in the next a radiology department or operating theatre suite. We had something of an opportunity for this back in the 1990s, when we still owned the entire block across the road from the current hospital, which was occupied by the old Queen Mary and the nurses' home in Fraserville. But against the strong pleas by me and a number of other clinicians, the managers of the time sold it off to improve the DHB's deficit, and then added to the pain by moving a substantial number of services down from Whakaari onto the current site, which was far too small, and everything became impossibly tight. The money realised from the sale rapidly vanished into thin air, a bit like Nicola's tax cuts while she decimates the organs and vital functions of the state. Let me also be very clear about this. There is absolutely no realistic option to decant sufficient services from the current buildings to allow refurbishment while still having a functional hospital. Worse still is that projects that require continuity and long-term vision, particularly large infrastructure projects, are frequently cancelled or substantially revisited at great cost with each change of government. Often this is motivated entirely by petty spite and point scoring for political gain. As a consequence, we currently have the whole Dunedin Hospital rebuild project thrown into limbo at enormous cumulating costs, as you see. The message we're getting is that the 1.88 billion price tag is the limit of what the government will fund. That is a political choice, not an immovable truth. We have relatively low public sector debt, over the past decade averaging around 32% of GDP, although it has spiked, as in all OECD countries in the last 2 years, for reasons you well understand. It's roughly comparable to Australia and Ireland, but well below countries like Germany, France, Canada, the UK and the US, the later two exceeding 100% of GDP. The only two options suggested to keep within the cost ceiling are to refurbish the current ward block or to downsize the new hospital. Neither of those are credible options. Neither the people of this region nor the staff that struggle to provide decent care are responsible for the building cost inflation that has run rampant in this country in the last few years. Neither the people of this region nor the staff that struggle to provide decent care are responsible for the multiple limitations and caveats that were placed on the choice of site or what was or wasn't in scope for this project. That was the work of the ministry acting for central government. So we should not be punished for these. The government would be doing its job if, rather than suggesting unworkable and frankly inadequate solutions, it focused on getting construction costs down, addressing the significant discrepancies in building material costs between here and Australia, running tendering processes competently, and stop dithering while the costs continue to rise. If they can't manage any of these measures of cost control, then they are faced with the reply that I get from my plumber when I question the eye-watering sum being asked for a few pieces of plastic. It's what it costs, Michael. My final piece of advice to the government is a quote from a man who served as one of our deputy commissioners until his untimely death 5 years ago, the late Graham Crombie. As he said in a public meeting around 7 years ago, JFDI, just get on with it. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Mike Hunter. We will hear some more from him later on in the program, and you will have the opportunity to put questions to Mike and some other medical professionals. But I think we all know that a hospital is not just a building. It's about people and it's about the stories that happen within those four walls. So to share a little bit about why the Southern Hospital is so important to them, we're going to invite two more guests. And first up, please welcome to the stage former All Black Paul Miller. A lot of you, if you're involved in sports or you've got kids at school, they'll know Paul. He was a former Kings boy, a Highlander, and of course he has worn the black jersey. Please take the microphone, my friend.
Sorry. Ironically, I have to take my glasses off to actually see, so. Tēnā koutou katoa. Ko Paul Miller, toki ingoa. Hello everyone. I'm pretty humbled to be standing up here amongst you all, especially with respected guests and speakers. I'm just a humble guy from Waikaka, Southland, but that's where my story starts. I've had a lived experience through the health system, and I'm here to actually call on support from everyone throughout the Southland and Otago region. Born and raised in a farming community in Southland, now calling Dunedin my home, along with you all, I'm here to add my support to ensure the initial promise is maintained for a new hospital build. Firstly, I do pay my respects for all people here today affected by cancer, personally or through the extended whānau. For most of us, bad health feels like something that's a long way off. For some of us, we go about our lives feeling strong and invincible, like nothing can touch us. I certainly felt that way through my rugby career. I was fit, I was active, and I was on top of the world. I felt bulletproof. I carried on post-rugby thinking I was still bulletproof, even though my lifestyle towards my personal fitness and health became lesser. And then one moment, 3.5 years ago, changed everything. That one moment was a single phone call that defined my way of life. You have cancer. That moment hit me like a Jerry Collins tackle. I didn't see anything. Didn't see it coming. I felt a wave of disbelief, confusion, and fear wash over me. Cancer? Me? At 44? It felt like an impossible reality. As someone who'd spent years pushing my body to the physical limits, we had a mid-school on the rugby field, this was the hardest hit of all. My body, which I trusted for so long, suddenly felt like the imminent enemy. The days following were a blur of doctors, tests, and future treatments. The whirlwind of appointments, the uncertainty of what lay ahead, and the emotional weight all made everything feel surreal. How could my body be betraying me now? That was a challenge I hadn't prepared for. But what I didn't expect was the incredible support that would surround me. In the rugby world, we talk about team all the time, but what I truly felt that word meant during this journey. My family, my friends, the oncology medical team, and even my old teammates, those people who had been there in the changing room, on and off the field, were now by my side in this battle. They reminded me that I wasn't alone, even when the fight seemed impossible. Throughout my treatment journey, I was privileged to meet other patients, people facing their own battles, who showed me what real strength looked like. I was half their age, and I'm sitting here in a surreal environment, thinking again, why me? However, we shared stories, we encouraged one another, and together we found strength where there once was fear. 3.5 years later, I stand here today, and I can say that cancer didn't win. If anything, it taught me how precious life is. How important it is to appreciate the small moments and how resilient this human spirit can be. What I've learned is health is fragile, but the strength of a person's heart and mind is what truly matters. I learned even in the face of the hardest time, we have the power to keep moving forward, to rebuild and redefine what strength and success means. I never imagined that cancer would be part of my story, but it's made me stronger, more grateful, and more aware of what truly matters. And that's why we're here. One of the most important matters is Dunedin needs a new hospital. Why? To address the ageing infrastructure and meet the demands of a growing and ageing population, along with our mokopuna. A new hospital would not only provide better facilities and equipment for healthcare delivery, but also ensure that Dunedin remains a hub for high quality medical services throughout the wider Otago, Southland and national region, supporting both health of the community and the well-being of healthcare professionals. Thank you for listening to my story. I hope it gives you strength, whether you're fighting your own battle or supporting someone who is, because together we're stronger. Bad health will eventually knock on our door, and we need an appropriate health facility to cope with the reality.
As we all know, I'm sure we all know people who have been through cancer treatment, and it's a big beast to take on, and I think it's even braver to stand up and to share what you've gone through in order to help others. So, kia ora, thank you. Now, the next guest I'm going to invite onto the stage is Jason Herrick. Welcome to the stage, Jason Herrick. Jason is from the Southland Federated Farmers President, and he is here to share why this hospital is so important to him. Thank you, Jason.
Tēnā koutou katoa. Thank you very much for inviting me here tonight to speak. My name is Jason Herrick. I'm the President of Southland Federated Farmers, father to 4 adult children and grandfather to 3 beautiful granddaughters. I'm here tonight, or I was here tonight, to talk about 3 key points, but I'm going to ignore them because I've just changed my speech after listening to everybody else. And I do that, I do a little bit of freelancing. So I want to talk to why Dunedin Hospital is important to me. Okay, we have an increasing population. We also have an increasing poor health population. It is bureaucracy and legislation that is creating a lot of this poor health in society. I see it more now than I did before, because in 2020, at the age of 42, I had my first heart turn. It took 37 minutes to fly from my home in northern Southland to Dunedin Hospital to get the care that I needed. I didn't know what was going on. It might have seemed small and insignificant to somebody else, but to me that was big. That was massive. That was one of the hardest things I've ever had to go through, besides watching my wife go through turmoil as well. And another health incident earlier on. I've told my story many a times, and it relates more to mental health than it did to physical health, because it was the mental health that created the physical health. The pressures and the legislation and regulation put upon the rural sector. We live and breathe it every day. Okay, we've become a society of convenience because we're so busy doing other things and so busy doing the stuff that we do on a daily basis. We go to do what's easiest. We go to our fast foods, we go to our unhealthy options, we go to alcohol, we stop exercising. Crikey, I was reminiscing with Paul there earlier on. We've crossed paths many a times on the rugby field and we didn't even know it. I was fit and healthy and active until that took over my life. I'm 46 now and I've got a pacemaker. Thank Christ that Dr. Wilkins and the hospital staff. I tell you what, as a farmer, the one man you want to do the operation on your heart while you're awake is Dr. Wilkins. I just got to tell this story because this is funny as. he was telling me, while working on my heart, we were watching the screen with everything going into it, how he used to practice this procedure on his home farm as a child on dead sheep. Gave you a real vote of confidence that day. But another thing I want to share about the waste of money in this country, okay, and I've seen it firsthand. And I just want to read this bit of my speech that I did write earlier on. If I can find it. We're getting bogged down in the cost of over-regulation and legislation that leads to budget overruns and stalls progress, leading to the situation where money is put before human health. I'll use one example I personally experienced it when I was the chair of a property committee in our local school. $5.5 million was given to me in the TMYA to modernise the school buildings over 10 years. Guidelines and rules meant the first $1.5 million was spent on consultancy and planners before a hammer was even used. I could have built a whole classroom block for that $1.5 million. So I can only imagine the waste of money that's gone into this process. When's this going to stop? We heard earlier how China can build a hospital in 10 days. Why can't we? My last point is whether you drive a tractor in the fields of northern Southland, where I'm from, or you drive a Mercedes on George Street. In-house, we're all on an even playing field. We need this hospital in its entirety now.
Thank you so much, Jason Herrick. Now, the next guest I'm going to welcome probably doesn't need much of an introduction if you've been in Dunedin North for the last few years. The Right Honourable Pete Hodgson has been the chair of the Southern Partnership Group and of the Southern District Health Board. You would think I would know how to say health by this point of the evening, wouldn't you? He spent more than 20 years as MP for Dunedin North, 9 of them as a senior cabinet minister with multiple portfolios, including Minister of Health. So he knows a thing or two about our kaupapa here tonight. Please welcome Pete Hodgson.
Thanks everybody. It's just a joy to look out at all of these faces. There's 1,000 people here. Thank you for coming. That's why we've come. We haven't been consulted on changes that are happening to our health system very soon. So, we're going to have to give a message anyway. And my job is to explain the messages that we've chosen for you, we hope, to endorse. And we begin by reminding ourselves that we have been at this a while. The government's a year old. The hospital build, sadly, shamefully, is 7 years old. And quite a few people have made quite a few decisions, and there's been quite a lot of refinement to this project now. It is very, very well designed. If there are still savings to be made, if there are still, and in the course of construction, one would hope that there would be here and there, make them. We're taxpayers too. We don't mind saving money, we just don't want quality to be compromised, and we will put up with no cuts to clinical services. Which leads us to our first statement. And the first statement could be expressed as our hospital, as planned, is already small enough, thank you. The second one is the one that you've heard from Mike and Sheila already. Please just stop this business of refitting the ward block, and we'll go into some detail on that. And the third message is delay costs, and we'll go into some detail on that. So here's the first one. When we sat down to plan this hospital all those years ago, we decided from the beginning that we would make some assumptions about efficiency. We would use digital technology. We would do more day surgery. We would have a more efficient process with ED. And importantly, we would rely more on primary and community health and would need to invest in that, though so far the investment has yet to come. And when we then decided, anyone down the back? So we're missing a slide, it's just jumping. There it is. When we then took that idea and put it into bed numbers, this is what happened. First of all, we've got about 364 beds in our hospital now. And we just said in 2018, looking forward 25 years to 2043, if we had no efficiencies, we would be needing about 513. But we don't build a hospital, not going to build a hospital that big. We're going to build a hospital with only 421 because we have got some assumptions that we will make those efficiencies. Mike Hunter's already expressed some concern about that, but that's what we said we would achieve. And now, if someone takes out the 6th floor, I read about that in the ODT, whether it's 24 beds or 48, I don't know, but I've said that it's 24, which that reduces us down to 397, and our hospital by 2043 will already be too small. So we can conclude that there must be no cuts to clinical services at all. We've already done it. A long time ago, in about August or September of 2016, people began the analysis of whether we could use the ward block, and some months later they came to a conclusion, which, as you can see up there, the Cabinet of Bill English accepted. It was not going to be a good idea. It would cost more in the longer term and it would take longer. But that idea, even though it was rejected all those years ago, is being looked at one more time. Even now, the people who are looking at it are going to have to not only overcome the problems of 7 years ago, but a whole lot more. One of them is that the ward block under the current proposal will need to have a different seismic rating. IL3 becomes IL4. IL3 means that in a big earthquake, the building stands, but it stops working. The new outpatient building is IL3. It stops working, we don't mind, people can walk out, no one dies. But if you put inpatients into a building, it can't stop working, it has to be IL4. They can't go anywhere. And going from IL3 to IL4 is expensive. Cabinet would be invited to choose between the proposed inpatient block at the Cadbury site, which is now almost fully designed, and therefore errors in design, errors in costing are now very low, with the refurbished ward block option, which is roughly being done on the back of an envelope, and where the error bars are very high and the uncertainty is very high. If you're in Cabinet, you're being invited to choose between an apple and an orange, to be polite. There's more. This will be a surprise to many, but the amount of money that's been spent on the Cadbury site already exceeds $200 million. Most of it is in 5 years of design, architecture, and various forms of engineering. All of the forms of engineering, there are many of them. And the rest of it is in the other bits and pieces, taking down an occasional chocolate factory, putting all the piles in, all the legal work for the consents, and all of that. It adds over $200 million, and that is money that cannot be recouped. It would be money lost if we went to the ward block. And then there's the effect on patients, which I'll let you imagine for yourself, and the fact that we wouldn't have this thing open until almost, or maybe even, 2040. There's something worse than all that, and we've had a bit of a hint of it from Sheila and Mike. Imagine being a health professional in a construction zone for the best part of 10 years. And imagine how your own health would be after that time. And imagine whether you would be applying for a job at this place or going somewhere else to work. These are things that are of real consequence. And at the end of it, we will end up with a brand new 60-year-old building. This is nonsense. It must stop, and it must stop right now. It is a total waste of time. So here's the last of our 3 messages. Build it now. You've seen the little counter on the screen heading off towards $6 million. It'll get there tomorrow. That's the amount of money that the hospital has, the project has, the cost increase in the project just due to ordinary inflation since the day we went marching. $6 million in that time. Just ordinary inflation. But wait, there's more. The building costs have been running in the last 5 years way more than inflation. Much closer to 3 times inflation. And there are some figures there, and there's a little reference there as well if you want to go and check it up. That'll be on the Save Our Southern Hospitals website from tomorrow. You can go and have a look at it if you like. And then if you're going to redesign, even taking out the 6th floor, you're going to have to put some bits here and some bits there. That needs to be redesigned. That means you've got to get rid of a whole lot of drawings. Maybe you've got to throw out 100, maybe you've got to throw out 500, who knows, and do them again. And the engineering, and that takes time, and it takes money. And then you've got to overcome the problem that you may be prone to error because you're doing it in a hurry. We know this because 2 years ago we did make some errors. Sheila has referred to them. Pathology is the most obvious. We cut it too deep. And then there's the fact of the matter that the existing hospital will have to last longer, and it's on its last legs. You watch soon. We will need to redo our sterile supply unit. It's no good. It'll need to have a capital investment, and so on and so on, just keeping the lights on for that hospital. And then there's the cost on all of us of not having an efficient hospital in place. So we think building it now would be a good idea, and that leads us to those 3 messages which I commend to you, and thank you for your attention.
This statement, put together by Pete, is going to Health Minister Dr. Shane Betty. Cuts to clinical services are totally unacceptable. The option to retrofit the existing ward block as a future inpatient facility should be abandoned immediately. The biggest cost of the project is delay. A major redesign at this stage is a false economy. And that's love from all of you guys. Now is a chance to get some answers to your questions. So I would like to invite onto the stage all of our panellists. We will have nurse nurse, Linda Smiley, joining us. Welcome up to the stage, Linda. Dr. Martina is also going to be part of our panel. Come on up. Where are you, Linda? I saw you before. There you are, yeah. And we've got Richard Thompson here. Now, he signed off on this project back in 2007. He's been a board member of the Southern DHB as well as a founding member of the Southern Partnership Group, so his knowledge of this project is vast. The way it's going to work... Hello? Can you still hear me? Now you can, sorry about that. The way it's going to work, I will ask one or two questions to kick us off. That gives you time to wave down one of the ushers who's got a roving mic. Where are you, ushers and microphones? Yep, down the back there. You'll see them with the white t-shirts on and red lanyards, so that gives you a bit of a time to have a think about what you would like to ask. Linda Smiley, a bit of a local legend. Let's give it up for Linda. If you don't know, Linda is the one who created the petition to stop the cuts to the Southern Hospital. It has nearly 35,000 signatures now, right? And Linda presented that petition to Parliament earlier this month. You're not just a legend, part of this campaign, you're a nurse, a registered nurse. Have you worked through a rebuild or similar before, Linda?
I was unfortunate to have to work through the ICU refit, and when people ask me what it was like, I describe it as working through a war zone, and it was the noise. If you can imagine, if you've got road workers jackhammering outside on the road, you imagine that above your head from 8 o'clock in the morning right through your working shift. For days on end, for weeks on end, for months, and I think it felt like years actually. You couldn't talk to your patients. They all got earplugs, we didn't. We could only communicate by yelling at each other, which was absolutely exhausting. I was thinking if I was asked would I do it again, no I wouldn't. Yeah, I've already made that decision.
It sounds horrific, and what was going on for your patients? What are the impacts on patients?
Well, again, they share a lot of time in rooms together, and they used to chat, past the time of day. There was no chatting. It was very hard to talk to them. Health relies on good communication with your patients, good communication with your team. Very, very difficult. I think patients were very happy to leave, even with the earplugs. There was the constant vibration coming through the floor. It was a very, very, very unpleasant time.
Now I would like to throw it out to the floor. Has anybody got any questions? Perhaps just raise a hand. Yes, sir, I can see you there. And just a reminder to the 1,000 or so of you in the room that it is question time. Not just say a thing that you've been wanting to say time, said with love. So to this gentleman in the front here, and he would like to... I'm sorry. Hello, who's your question for?
I'm Gil Barbazat, a retired physician and academic. 2 questions, comments if I may. The one is this hospital, besides being a regional hospital, is a teaching hospital. Why is it so difficult to integrate teaching and health and provide an environment where our students can learn in a good environment where medicine is practiced as it should be, rather than on a building site? And secondly, why is it so impossible for the politicians to get together to raise the funds to create a well-funded health system? All of us here, all of us in New Zealand want better funding of health. If parties could get together and have some form of gaining funds, tax is a dirty word, but in some way it's got to come from the public purse, otherwise we can't fund the health we need. So, put politics aside, we all agree we need money for health. Where's it going to come from?
It's a great question. Mike, potentially you can speak about.
I'll address the first question, Bill. There's been a long-standing problem of compartmentalisation of education and healthcare. And in many people's minds, and particularly those who run the health system, those two things are seen as entirely separate. That learning and training and education are the province of the Department of Education in the schools and the universities, and healthcare is all that the public hospitals need to be concerned with, which of course we know is complete nonsense. Much of the training, particularly postgraduate training, it is done gratis basically by the hospital and its employees. Medical students pay only about a third of the real cost of training them. The rest is actually funded by the state in this invisible way. And unfortunately, those that run healthcare have never really seen it as their key responsibility. If you go to a big corporation, they don't think like that. They invest heavily in training and development of their staff. But for this weird reason, our health managers for many years have thought that wasn't their problem, wasn't their business, somebody else's.
And Richard, do you happen to know how to get all the politicians together to agree on investing in healthcare?
I wish I did, but look, I think one of the things about health is because every health episode is that, it's an episode, you can save money, in inverted commas, by just treating less people. But if you imagine when they build that tunnel under Mount Victoria in Wellington, if they run out of the budget with 50 metres still to go, will they hand out pickaxes and miners' helmets and say, I'm sorry, you're on your own, you've got to make your own way out? Or will they finish it? And that's the difference, I fear, that there are some things, transmission, gully, you know, there are things that you cannot not finish, but with health you can say, well, we'll just ignore some of you. And that's why these things are critically important, because it's harder to ignore some of you. And the other thing I just want to pick up on the education training side, I think a lot of people here won't be aware of some of the sacrifices that have already been made to keep this thing in budget. One of them was the interprofessional learning space. Dunedin, we think about it as a home for a medical school, but it's a home of a nursing school, an occupational therapy school, a dental school, a pharmacy school, who have I missed out? Physiotherapy, yeah. So, you know, it's all of those things, and we get the most efficient use of our health dollar when all of those professions best understand each other and best work together. And that was one of the innovative things. It's already gone. You don't even know it's missing, but it's gone. So when people say we're selfish, well, sod them, we're not. We are actually wanting to do that hotel under Mount Victoria, that tunnel under Mount Victoria, and if you happen to run out of budget 50 metres short, well, you've got to finish it.
Do some very professional timekeeping here on my phone. That's why I've got my phone. I'm not just checking my text messages. Perhaps if you've got a question, you've got a microphone already. Very organised. Let's come to you.
Hi, how are you doing? I've been in health for 30 years. Mike, I'm sure. I agree with everything that's been said, but we've talked about the cynicism of the current government and past governments. And everybody agrees with what's being said, but how do we escalate? So if they don't listen to you like they haven't listened to you, how do you escalate? And people don't like to talk about striking, they don't like to talk about walking away or resigning, or not committing to talking to the government. Maybe that's where I disagree with Sheila a bit, that maybe we need to disengage a bit with these people. And
I think the question the message is how do we make sure the right people are listening to what is coming out of the southern region. Linda, you were just in Wellington recently delivering the petition. How was it received? Do you have any insight?
It was received very well by the Labour and the Green politicians. The national politicians did come out and try and say that they were going to build us a great hospital, and that speech didn't last very long because it wasn't very well received. But yeah, I think there's a lot of goodwill on the left side of the parliamentary side.
Mike, Richard?
Look, I think we are really dependent on our clinicians to have the confidence that their community is behind them if they have to say, no, this is not acceptable. And so that has to be the look, projects will change. They will always change. This has changed multiple times. Different things will happen. Changes will get made. When do we get to the point that it's right? I'm not actually competent to answer that question, but the clinicians are competent to say, does it give us the capacity we need, and is it safe? And when they can say the answer to both of those things is yes, then we should be with them. But in the meantime, we have to ensure that they know we have their backs, so that if the answer is no, they can say so.
Can I just make a comment about long-termism, because that's what we're really lacking here. There are some slight glimmers of hope. One is that the current government has indicated that it accepts there is a huge problem with infrastructure provision in New Zealand, and that will only be solved by some form of longer-term agreement between all the political parties so that it doesn't keep getting changed with every 3-year election. Now, how long it will take them to renege on that, I don't know, but at least it's being talked about. There is some example in Australia where there are some compacts about long-term policy from the federal government, mediated between all the states, that all the states have to sign up to with a 5 or 10-year horizon, which is a whole lot better than what we've got. And the third thing I think that we need to be looking at is we need a much longer parliamentary term. 3 years is far too short for any reasonable long-term planning.
We are going to go for one more question. It's a little bit difficult to hear you, I think, up here on stage, so please help us by keeping your questions succinct and clear. That would be much appreciated. Have we got a question asker down there or up here? Oh, kia ora.
I'm Kate Stevens, I'm an intensivist and anaesthetist and retrieval doctor. This, as you said, this isn't just about Dunedin, this is about half of South Island. We did nearly 600 helicopter transfers between hospitals this year, or in the last year. Vast majority of those come to Dunedin. If this government don't care about our rural population and don't even understand the concept of health equity, do their rich friends in Queenstown even know that if they have a heart attack or major trauma or need specialist surgery, they come to Dunedin and we have water dripping through the ceilings in our theatres? Laws cost $3 billion. Another road around Auckland costs $3 billion. Don't tell me this is not affordable.
I'm going to say, in my professional timekeeping opinion, perhaps one more question or two if you're absolutely gagging to hear from our incredible panellists. You are. Over to you.
Come on. Hey. Yes, hello. My name's Peter Frost. I'm on the United Nations Association for Otago Southland. So we are your United Nations representatives in this part of the world. First of all, Thank you for the wonderful addresses and also for the extraordinary amount of work that you've done to get this project to this point. It's been amazing. Thank you. Secondly, the National UN Association has asked us to address the issues here with regard to health, housing and food, and we're planning to do that next Saturday, this coming Saturday, 23rd, next door at the Dunedin Suite in the library. We'll be addressing these issues, but to whet your appetite, this is from 12 to 4, there will be food provided, open to everyone. To whet your appetite.
Is there a question in there, my friend?
No.
Okay.
Just a statement.
Can you leave a flyer out in the foyer for us so that somebody can have the opportunity to ask a question? Would that be okay?
You can find out about this on social media and on the UN website.
Thank you very much, my friend. Yes. Let's come to one of our wonderful nurses down here, perhaps. My apologies. Over here, you're ready to go. Last question. Question A.
Right. Listen, I think I have actually two proposals as and we could actually profit out of this. And
I'm so sorry, sir. We're actually struggling to hear you on the microphone.
Sorry. Okay. I have two suggestions.
But do you have any questions?
Yeah. I want to know then why, for example, that it's cost us 5 cents a litre for petrol to pay for the Auckland runs. The second one is that why can't we be reimbursed with the taxes, with the debts and the ongoing costs, etc., when we have been providing them for years with power? So why not cut their bloody power off?
I need it. I live in Auckland. I need the power.
Yeah, sure. We need the hospital.
Absolutely. Look, let's come for one final question. Thank you for that thought. Let's come for one final question.
Thank you everyone for the huge work that you've done over the last 7 years. My name's Anne Daniels, I'm a nurse. I work in ED and I work with Linda as a delegate for NZNO. My question is, Linda, how would you feel about the future of healthcare if it was actually applied to you? What are you thinking if you became a patient? Right.
I'll reply as a nurse, first of all. As a nurse, you accept that there are political cycles and you try and keep politics out of health. And over the years, I've gone through a range of emotions, depending on the government, from joy, happiness, sadness, frustration, extreme frustration, and so on. But I've never been scared before. And at the moment, I'm genuinely terrified for the health system because there's two reasons. This government is not a government that's evidence-based for a starter. And health is very much an evidence-based profession. So the decisions that they make are not based on evidence, and I'm very, very scared that the decisions that they make around the hospital will not be based on evidence, and we will pay a horrendous price, and our children and grandchildren will pay that price. They also are not telling the truth. I mean, they rolled out $3 billion, very dubious figures. They said that we're going to save public's money, but no frontline services will be cut. What's a frontline service if it's not a hospital? You know, so... So I'm now getting to that age where I'm more likely to become a patient than not. and that worries me as well. It worries me about access. It worries me that if I come into ED, or in fact if I take my 86-year-old mother into ED, will they be seen? Will there be a bed? Will they get access? Will we be able to attract the staff that we need to actually fill these positions? What ED intensivists want to come to an ED where they know they can't progress their patient through the services when they could go to the likes of Auckland or Wellington? same with surgeons, same with all sorts of consultants, registrars. So I don't think I've ever been more terrified for the health system, if I'm honest. Does that answer your question, Anne?
Well, we have come to the end of the time that we have for our panellists, but please give a big round of applause for all of our panellists. And look, I do want to acknowledge the depth of feeling in this room. That is real, I know, and you have all been living it, breathing it, and you want a better outcome for your future, which is why we're all here today. But I do thank all of you who took the time to respect our incredibly intelligent panellists and their big fat brains and give them a question that they can sink their teeth into. I'm just going to swap onto the lectern mic now. Now I would like to invite to the stage Damien Newell. If you were at the September March, you will know him as the Chief Chant Leader. Damien, did you make up that title for yourself or was it bestowed upon you? So Damien is the voice of the breeze and he is here. Oh, I was looking around like, where is he? Hi Damien, welcome to Damien Newell. Listen to that voice.
Choo-choo. Oh, bless you. Give me a round of applause for Carol, please. Thank you so much. You're wonderful. Thank you. First and foremost, I don't have any official role here, aside from just being a parent. And I had one of my sons had emergency surgery last week. And he wasn't expecting it, we weren't expecting it, but it could happen to anyone in this room, as we've heard from Paul and so many others. Health sneaks up on you. Now, thank you very much. You have got homework. You're not getting off that lightly, because we've all got those friends who don't protest. Don't rock the boat. You know, this is the time. This is the time that we do rock the boat. We get off chuff. We tell each other to tell a friend. It's like the Wallet commercial. They told a friend, they told a friend, and so on, and so on, and so on. So use your voice, whether your voice is at the end of the telephone, whether your voice is a handwritten postcard to your MP, or your mayor, or your best friend, or your neighbour, or your family members. Use it. Or Facebook, yeah, for God's sake, please, use what's available to you. If you're computer savvy, share something, make a small selfie video, say, hi, my name is Damien Newell, and I need this hospital for my mokopuna, I need this for my tamariki, I need this for me. All right? Yeah. You've got to start making noise. We've all been very polite. We've all sat and listened to these wonderful learned people, and they are. And listen to them because they know stuff. They're at the coalface. We had 500 clinicians design this bloody hospital. Now we've got 5 politicians playing pocket billiards saying that, oh no, we know better. They don't. They don't. These people do. So for God's sake, please go forth. Please go forth and tell everyone. It's not over. This is just the beginning. Don't let this die. We had 35,000 people in the Octi and they were all angry, they were all fired up. Please take this message. We've got 3 key points that Pete shared with us. They will be available on the Facebook page, they'll be available on the website. We've got a Give a Little page which helps us get the message out there, so please contribute if you can. And failing that, we've got TV cameras all over the show. I've seen Ross here, I know Hamish is here from stuff, and we're going to make a little bit of noise now so they can take it away, because this little bit here is going to go viral, okay? This is the bit that makes the noise, and I know you can do it, because you've done it before and you're bloody good at it. So, Gordy, is there any chance we can get the chant up on the big screen? It's just just like the scene here is so good. Gordy Duff, ladies and gentlemen, from Strawberry Sound, please. All right. So if you've got placards, we've got some beauties along the front here. Thank you very much, Sammy. Keep up the good work, my friend. Love it. All right. So here we go. Build it once. Build it right. Build it right. Build it right. And build it now. 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 Build it now Okay, that is a beautiful warm-up. Now I'm going to let you on your own because we need it all three tied together. We need you stomping your feet, we need you making noise, we need you raising arms. Are we ready? On the count of three. 1, 2, 3. Alright, one more, that was a beautiful warm-up. I feel it coming together. Here we go, here we go, here we go. Right, one more for luck. No, come on. Small price to pay. Here we go. 1. Yeah, good. If you can, on your feet. All right. We're not happy. We're not polite. We're angry and we're focused, and we need to build it. Beautiful, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much for your attendance. Thank you very much for spreading your message. Don't stop. Please make as much noise on social media and on the electric telephone as you possibly can. Kānoa, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for coming. Bless you.
As you make your way out of the building, look out for more flyers, more information. I'd like to thank the Otago Daily Times